Welcome to the Elevated Marketing podcast show that is designed for business owners and marketers who are tired of overhyped advice. We talk through what we're testing, we challenge assumptions, and we share what's really happening in the world of marketing, which is messy, creative, and always evolving. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Elevated Marketing podcast. Today, we are going to talk about SEO, AEO, basically how has search changed and what do you need to know in order to stay ahead. So this is definitely a evolving topic, and every month things have been changing, and it has been for roughly the last 2 years. And you've perhaps been doing SEO for several years, and you've been building blogs, optimizing pages, chasing keywords, and you're probably wondering, what do I need to do in order to make sure that I show up for AEO, GEO, SEO, AI overviews? All pretty confusing. So let's kind of start there with all these different terms and what they mean. So, like marketing, like we always do, we like to create new terms that mean the same thing. And AEO is answer engine optimization. And so, that term is really based in the fact that when you are using a ChatGPT or even when you're Googling now, you're asking full sentences and you're asking questions just like you might have been before. And Google or ChatGPT or Siri or Perplexity or whatever, AI tool that you're using is giving you back the answer without even going to a website. Another term people like to call it is GEO, so generative engine optimization, means the same thing. AI overviews is what Google is calling it, which is the same thing, but it's basically using AI in Google's search results. And then the term that we like to use is SEO, which is, search everywhere optimization. And I really like that term because it really encompasses, what really hasn't changed in this entire environment is that we are searching for answers to problems and wanting solutions. And that's how we've used the internet since the internet, came about. I think it's evolved over the years where, perhaps we might have put in, plumber Indianapolis because we're simply searching for a plumber that is around there. But now we might say, I need a plumber that specializes in drain cleaning solutions. And I might actually be talking that into a Google, or I might be using a ChatGPT in order to see, who is available. And that's how our behavior has evolved. So while I like the intention of creating a, new term to indicate that it has, changed, the reality is that it's been changing all along. I think, ChatGPT became a whole new way for us to potentially search. And, that's when we started as marketers coming up with this, oh my gosh, everything's changed. We need to change everything. And the reality of what we've actually seen over the last couple of years is not so much. Um, People are using different ways. So the consumer is always in charge of, how they search for answers. And what we saw at first was, ChatGPT was the obvious front runner. But now Google has caught up, and good old Google search engine that we're all used to has evolved to where you're getting those answers directly from Google now. And so the $1 million question is your potential, buyer of your product or service, are they using Google? Are they using ChatGPT? What are they using? And the reality of the situation is they're likely using both. The truth is that there is not search volumes available like we previously would have had from Google. So Google always gave us the Google Keyword Planner tool so we could kind of see how often people were searching for a certain phrase, and that data was always available. Now, ChatGPT doesn't give you that information. Google doesn't give you that information. They don't separate between, their AI overviews and just regular search results, which you might have noticed have been pushed, further down. And so the reality is in Google, you might see your impressions going up, your clicks are still showing there, but you might see less clicks. And that's just because people are getting their answers in the AI overview. They're asking multiple questions before they even decide to go over to your website. And that is just the natural flow of a buyer that some of us, if we're in marketing, recognized. And if you're not in marketing, you maybe didn't want to recognize or admit was happening. When a buyer goes through a process, they have all these questions, which we as marketers kind of call up funnel or top of funnel, before they make that final buying decision and they decide to actually reach out and they call you or fill out your form or book an appointment, whatever have you. And so we don't see all that traffic that we were answering, searches for with, blog post is now potentially happening in AI overviews or a ChatGPT. So you're going to see less traffic for that very reason. And because of that, it's okay if your traffic is going backwards. What you really want to make sure that you're measuring are what's called key events in Google Analytics, and that is the form fills, the phone calls, the final action that somebody is taking. As long as those are continually improving, you can be sure that your efforts for AEO, SEO, GEO, or however you want to call it, are actually working. Now, there have come about some tools that measure how you are showing in ChatGPT, and I'm using quotations for you people listening to the podcast. Those cannot be accurate because ChatGPT is not releasing that information. And so, in my professional opinion, those are scams and are not really showing whether or not you're actually showing up. And this is really due to the fact that A, they're not releasing the information, and B, everybody's search results are going to be completely different. They are personalized. So Google is going to show you different results based on how you've searched before. And we're going to also see different results in ChatGPT based on how you've used it before. So knowing that information, these tools that claim to be able to show you if you quote unquote rank, which I would say show up in ChatGPT would be a better way to explain it, or show inside of AI overviews, uh, can't possibly be accurate. It's not trackable at the moment. So let's talk about, kind of maybe the differences between what we call AEO, or how it has evolved from what our traditional SEO that we had before. So in some older models, some people would have the school of thought that you needed to rank for keywords. And the reality is that Google has evolved from that a long time ago. The reality of what you did before for SEO should have been based in what kind of questions does the buyer of my product or service has, and how can I provide those answers. So if you were building content before and you were not building content to answer the questions that people had, then you probably weren't doing real well in SEO. And you're not going to do real well in this new world of AEO. Because at the end of the day, people have questions and you need to provide those answers. Now, so that's a difference of how people would have thought. The other big difference is what I, just described was visibility versus clicks. So before you would measure, whether or not you were doing well in SEO, you were driving more traffic. But that in itself was also a bad measurement, because traffic doesn't necessarily equal better conversions or key events, which are form fills and phone calls. You can drive all the traffic in the world, but if it's not ready to convert, or you're not bringing people down the funnel to convert with the content that you produce, then it was all for naught anyways. And so, um, in this new world, it's about being there in the chat GPTs, in the AI overviews, and perhaps helping the consumer during their buying process, but you might not get the click this time. You might show up there, you might be in several different searches before they actually decide to go over and click through. And they might click through in a ChatGPT search, and they might click through over on search engines. That's the kind of information that we don't have right now. So it's really important to continue with your content marketing and continue to answer questions that people will have so that you can be helpful in them making their buying decision. What is different, though, is that you need to be able to structure your content so that you're able to answer it quickly and perhaps in a longer form as well. Somebody might be interested in reading, through and getting the entire answer, but for ChatGPTs and AI overviews, you need to make those short chunks of question answer so that they're able to pull out people's questions from your content, and then you're able to show as someone who potentially is able to answer the question. So that is a big difference maker, is the format and the structure of the content that you have out. It matters right now how much effort you put towards SEO tactics, AEO tactics. They're really, in my opinion, not two separate things. It is the same thing. And if you focus on the consumer, there are certainly some techniques and some tactics that will help you show. But overall, a lot of the same things that you would do for SEO are the same things that you would do for AEO, GEO. And so there isn't a ton of different things that you need to do. So, I think the ultimate question everybody wants to know is, will AEO replace SEO? And I think I just answered it for you. And no, it will evolve, but it won't necessarily replace it. At the end of the day, we're all going to be searching for, you know, we have problems and we need solutions. Where we go could vary. There could be a lot that could change. I mean, I came from the yellow page industry where, we used the yellow pages to find. And, that was revolutionary at the time when we went from yellow pages to the internet. So, all I do know is that when you are in marketing, making sure that you help the consumer the best that you can to make a decision is really what you need to focus on. And sure, there's definitely technical aspects that you need to stay ahead of, but I just don't think it's going to replace how the consumer gets answers to their questions and how they make buying decisions. So, no matter where people are searching, you need to be consistently marketing. And I think that's the name of the game. So, I hope that helps answer some questions that you might have about AEO versus SEO and what you need to do to prepare yourself as we go into the new year. All right. Take care and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, certainly rate and review the podcast, or you can head over to LinkedIn and follow me over there as well. All right. Take care.